So our next step is to make our markings for our grommets on our top facing panel. So this is the lining facing panel that's on the top of the lining. So I mark the centre, and I've just got a little tiny snip where I've marked the centre. You can do that just by folding it in half. And I've used the measurements given in the pattern, and I'm not going to give them on the video because the video will be live, so you need to buy the pattern. And I've marked all of the dots, so we now have 10 dots. I've just used, I'm using faux leather, so I've used a silver pen, which I think you can probably see there, yeah. And I've just made a small dot. It's fine because that will be cut out with the cutters for the, when we make the grommet holes. So I'm going to fold the whole panel in half, right sides together, so that both of those short sides are together. And remember, we've shaped those short sides, so the top part is slightly wider than the bottom part. Match up your top corners. Make sure that where you've got that join for the facing and the lining panels, that those are exactly matched. It will show inside and it will look awful if they're not. And continue on matching all the way down. You can put as many clips as you feel as you feel comfortable with. And then we're going to stitch down this side using a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Again, what did I do with my pressing mat? I put it in a very safe place. Well, that's very bizarre. I'm not sure where I put it. Anyway, I'm going to press that seam allowance open. I'm just going to do it on here. Depending on what fabric you're using, sometimes you can just kind of finger press it. If you're using something like waterproof canvas, then obviously you can't iron it. So do, when I say open, press the seam allowance open, do bear in mind that that's not always going to happen because it really does depend on your fabric choices. I can't open the top of my bag because it's got faux leather on the top part. So we are kind of limited to what we can open. Now, if you fold it back in half again so that the side seam is sitting right on the side, you can mark the centre on the bottom edge just with a little snip. You can use a pen, and then you're going to make another mark that is 7 3/8 of an inch away from that centre fold. So you've got the fold on the centre, show you where the centre of the panel is, and you're going to make another mark. I'm just going to, so 7 3/8, so I'm just going to move my ruler up a little bit and I'm going to snip. And those are your quarter marks. You must make that 7 3/8 mark or cut from 7 3/8 from the centre fold, not, well, actually it could be from there, but ideally from this central fold. We're then going to take our base panel, which we've used our template to create quarter marks on. Again, I've just made a little tiny snip in the outside edge to mark my quarter marks. And we're going to do the same thing as we did with the exterior. We're going to take our base, and we want to make sure that the base is right sides together with the lining, and we're going to match up one of those quarter marks with that side seam, and we're just going to clip that in place. We're going to match the opposite quarter mark, so on the other side of the base, with the centre mark that we made on the opposite side. And then we're going to put the other 2 quarter marks together. And then we're just going to ease the rest of the curves in. Again, use as many clips as you want, as you feel comfortable with. You could staple it if you feel the urge to. I'm not really a fan of the staple. It works, I know. I know some people that use the little guns that have the like plastic clips that you often find on, if you get clothes from the sale rail, it'll have like a little plastic, looks like a dog bone. It's got kind of 2 bits at each end and a plastic loop, and that'll have your sale price on. And I know a lot of people have used those with the very short plastic bits in to secure the bottom in place. I did try it, I just got into a bit of a muddle with it, so I decided it wasn't for me. Those that do it, swear by it. So there's more than one way of skinning a cat, as my granny used to say. Not that I ever saw my granny skin a cat, but never mind. So we're just going round and easing that base into the bottom of our lining. So we're not easing it into the top where we've got that facing, it's going into the bottom. Do be sure that you're actually putting this in the right end. You'll thank me for that later. This should fit absolutely perfectly. Just keep going around and easing, matching up those edges. We're about 36 degrees here today. Very, very warm. So there we have our base is all eased in, there are no puckers or gathers. I'm going to stitch around the outside there using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. I like to use an awl. If I can't find my awl, then I will use the point on my seam ripper, which is not ideal. And it just kind of holds things in place. When you start to take the clips out, you don't want things slithering. So just using the awl just in front kind of gives you an extra finger just to kind of hold things together, stop them moving. It's vitally important that you use the right seam allowance, because if you don't use the right seam allowance, your base will not fit and you'll end up with puckers inside of the bag, and that for me just seems a real shame to spoil things just because it's easy to not follow the seam allowance that's been given. If you've ever done a bag with an oval base or a round base before, you'll know that it has to be done properly, because there's no room for kind of there or thereabouts. That's what the maths involved in creating a circular bottom or an oval bottom is all about. That's what we, the people that write your patterns for you, spend hours trying to work out. It's been a long time since I was at school, and pie is not something that's generally at the forefront of my mind. Oh, don't know where it went. I'm not going to worry about it. It'll crunch when it gets to the floor when I stand on it. Right, no doubt that I will swear, because I usually do, because it hurts. I actually think standing on Wonder Clips is nearly as bad as standing on Lego. But not quite as painful as standing on a plug. So an electrical plug. Golly, those hurt. There we go, sitting beautifully. Now I'm going to use my pinking shears just because I've got them and I want to use them all the time. And I'm going to just trim down that seam allowance around the outside by approximately half. If you haven't got pinking shears, then you need to make the little notches all the way around to help ease this seam allowance so that it will sit nicely at the bottom of your bag. I don't think I've ever had a pair of decent pinking shears. I've got a pair that belong to my granny. They're Singer, and I'm sure, I don't know if you can get them sharpened actually. I might even try and do that. But I decided I would treat myself. And now that I've got them, I want to use them on everything. There we have it. And just going to turn it in the right way. Pressing hand, I'm just going to press the outside. Oh, sorry, the right side of the fabric. I'm going to press that side seam, which we've already pressed open on the inside, but I just want to make sure it looks... You can press once the bag's all put together, but if you press it sort of during construction, you'll find that it takes a lot less pressing afterwards. And I'm going to press all around that bottom edge, but I am going to have to manipulate this to do so. So I will come back to you once I've pressed this all out, and you can just kind of use your fingers to roll that base. It should be nice and circular and without any puckers or gathers, which this actually is. Yay, I love it. And I'll show you how we put the bag together.